Hi, welcome back to my channel. This is Crystal Warrior Moon Goddess, and this is a part 4 to my series of my story time of my childhood. This is because I didn't have a very good childhood, this might be triggering to some viewers, so there is a trigger warning on here because I don't want to cause anybody to relive traumatic events or have flashbacks or whatever. So if you decide to watch this video, this is on your own discretion and your choice. But if you know yourself and you won't be able to handle it, like, please, for your own safety and mental health, skip this video. So this is part 4 of the series, and I left off from, in my part 3, the end of the video, of me leaving Shodar Children's Hospital and going to another group home in Great Falls called the Pinsky House. And Pinsky House is also owned by Aware Inc., which isn't a very good company. So basically, I mean, everything was good at first. The PM2, which is basically the house manager, I've known him since I was young when I was staying at RGH, Rosemary Gallagher Children's Home in Missoula. And he migrated over to Great Falls and at Pinsky House, and he was the house manager or staff over there. And Pinsky House housed teenage girls from, I think, like 13 to teenagers that almost turn 18. So it was okay at first, but it quickly turned into another direction. So I wasn't treated very well, and like no one would listen to me. Like I would try to explain how I feel or explain something, and they just wouldn't listen to me. And they would be like, "Oh, stop arguing. We're not arguing with you, Tambi." And I'm just like, seriously? Like, all I want is to express myself. This is why I have a hard time, even to this day, expressing how I feel, because I have this really strong feeling and anxiety to stand up for myself, because this type of thing happened my whole life in foster care and when I would go into group homes and lockdown facilities. So basically, I was on meds, so I couldn't control my outbursts. So when I wasn't being understood, or I was being ignored, or I was being locked up in my room, or grounded for no reason, I would have outbursts. And in group homes like this, like, you would have to stand in your doorway and wait. Sometimes you would wait like 10-15 minutes in your doorway so that you can ask a staff if you can come out. It's literally the most annoying thing on the planet. You stand right in front of your door, and like if you ask more than twice, you get yelled at and written up for it. So like some kids will be like, "Can I come out? Can I come out? Can I come out? Can I come out? Can I come out?" And it's just like you'd hear that throughout the freaking house because the staff would ignore you, or they were so busy that they couldn't get to you. So you'd be, if you tried to walk out on your own without getting an answer from a staff, they would ground you for making dangerous decisions or something like that, or not listening, or something crazy. So, like, I understand why they have that rule. It's for safety. But, like, within the group home, Rosemary Gallagher Children's Home, RGH, they had these dingers on the door. Just called it dingers. They were motion activated. So if someone tried to walk in front of their doorway, it would go ding dong. So they could hear if you were leaving a room. But at Pinsky, they didn't have that. So you had to repeatedly be like, can I come out? Can I come out? And if you did it too much and you annoyed them because they could hear you, they're just ignoring you or they're busy, you would get in a lot of trouble for that. And written up and grounded. So basically, they just had enough of me. And they put me in this home called, it's also owned by Aware Inc. It's like the most horrible place I've ever been, other than Shodair. Shodair doesn't top the cake, but it's lined up with that. So, Pinsky House sent me to this therapeutic group home called Gayland. And all of us kids there, we would call it Gayland because, like, this place was just stupid. People would go to this place, like, having issues, but then they would leave worse. And they would end up coming back, like, 16 different times during their childhood. But basically, I'll get to the point of why this place is bad here in a second. So I moved there, and I think it was like September or something, like maybe a day or the day of I turned 11 years old. And this is so stupid. This is why, like, for the longest time, I had to learn about my own body. Even when I was, like, 17, almost turning 18, like, I didn't know my body because of these people. And, so, like, a couple days after I came to this group home, obviously, they checked all my things and then wouldn't let me have other stuff because if it was contraband, whatever. And they have this level system. Basically, if you get 3 checks, you're grounded, you lose all privileges and blah, blah, blah. Depending on who you are, you get treated really bad. And they definitely picked favorites there. So the ways to get checks is if you're listening to an adult conversation, and sometimes even another, I almost called it inmate, but if you're listening, even if you're listening to other girls in the house talk, you can still get a check for eavesdropping. You can get a check for arguing, like expressing yourself or trying to ask questions or whatever. They would just knock it up to arguing. You can get a check for not listening. And they're not actually, it says in their policy that they're not supposed to give more than 1 check for one situation. So say I wasn't listening or doing what I was told. They can't give you a check for arguing and a check for being rude. Like, they can't do that. It has to be 1. But depending on who you are, and you're not one of their favorites, they will double check so that they can get you grounded and so they have a reason to treat you like crap. And there it's like a whole power trip. So I think my first blow up there was when, and if people think this is gross, I'm going to talk about my period for a second, not in detail, but I'm going to talk about my period. So if you can't listen to this, click off the video or fast forward it a little bit. So basically, I had started my period. And obviously, because of my situation, I was not taught or even, I didn't even know what a freaking period was at this time because I was so closed off. Like, I was so closed in, I wasn't able to get any type of opportunity. Like, the only people that I talked to that were outside of the place that I was at was at school when I wasn't at Gayland, because Gayland has their own school. So I was very closed off. I was not allowed to go on walks by myself. I was not allowed to do nothing. a staff was always down my throat constantly. They never taught me anything that I needed to know, like my period. So when I started my period, I was afraid. I thought that I was bleeding out. I thought I was dying. And the reason why I thought I was dying, other than the fact that I didn't know what was happening to me, the staff were laughing at me and making fun of me and telling me that I'm going to die, that I had cancer, and that I was dying. And they thought it was hilarious. Like, I had no support, no help, no type of nothing with them. It was a joke to them. Anytime I was feeling ill or I had a headache, they would tell me I had cancer or I had a tumor or I was dying. Like, they didn't believe that this is what was happening. They were just being mean. And they would convince me that I was dying. And so when I first started my period, it was really rough. And like, TMI again, but like a lot of girls, they like to use tampons. Well, they're not going to teach you how to use them. So I didn't know how to use one, and I wanted to, because I didn't want to sit in my own stuff. And it would hurt really bad, and I would complain, and they would get mad at me because I didn't know how to wear one, and so they weren't willing to help me. And so anytime I complained about it hurting, they would get angry with me. And one time I got one stuck, and they made fun of me and punished me for it. But after that incident, like, things would get worse, gradually worse. And even to this day, like, several staff had quit because they were being forced to do things to the kids that they didn't want to do, that was unethical, not okay. And so some of these staff just knew it was wrong, so they quit. And I still care about one of the staff that I got actually really close to, and we continued to talk after I had left the group home for the last time. But like, after a couple years later into adulthood, I guess she just got really busy, and she had a grandbaby. So like, she's living her life, and I'm proud of her, and I'm glad that she's happy. So, and I miss them and love them to pieces. So basically, there would be times where even when I was not having a freak out, I would be, sometimes I would try my hardest not to freak out. Like, I'd be taking deep breaths, and I would have staff I'm trying to find the right word for it. But I don't know off the top of my head. But they were trying to, like, get me riled up on purpose. And they told me that the reason why they do this with some of the kids is that if they're able to purposely try to rile me up and I don't get riled up, then I'm ready to go home. Which is stupid, because I didn't really have a home. And I would stay there for years. And so I didn't really have anywhere else to go, but they would still taunt me and try to get me to freak out and tell me that my parents don't care about me and rip up photos of my family. And because my mom liked to do collages and make a picture book of all the stuff of when I was a kid, and like homemade cards for me and send them to me. And those were like, because I'm a very deep individual, those were very special to me. And because I had so many of them and I had them in boxes, the staff would call me a hoarder. And to rile me up, they would make fun of me. If I started to cry because they were ripping up my stuff and I was getting so overwhelmed, they would make fun of me, mock me when I would start to cry, rip up more stuff, and tell me that if I did not calm down, that they weren't going to stop, and they were going to continue to rip things up in front of my face. Like, they were mean. And I remember getting all my stuff removed out of my room. If I took a warm shower, like, this is nuts. If I took a warm shower, like, it wasn't burning my skin, but every once in a while I would come out with red skin. Like, it didn't hurt, but like, it was a good shower. If I came out with red skin, or like you could see like steam coming out of the bathroom, they would put me on suicide watch so that they could torture me. They would find even the smallest reasons to give me shit. And when they would do this, they would take, and I was an avid reader. Like, if you took my books away, because it was my escape, it was my happy place. If someone took my books away, I think I probably would have killed someone. Like, that's how important my books were. Like, I would get so overwhelmed without my books because of the way I was being treated, and the only way to escape was either to go into my own brain or read a book to distract myself, because I would get so involved in my book that I'd forget everything that's going on around me. And that's just how I coped. And there was no way of me being okay without having my books. It was like a coping mechanism, something that kept me calm. And they knew this. But they would take my books away, they would take my toys away, they would take everything from me. They would lock me in my room in the middle of my floor, because they would take my bed, my sheets, my blankets, and they would purposely undo my bed so that I would be forced at night at 8 p.m. when grounded people go to bed, which is 8 p.m., that I would have to remake my bed and do all this stuff. So they would purposely take my stuff out of my room, damage some of my stuff to get me riled up some more, and take my books. And then they would force me to sit in the middle of my floor for days. Sometimes I wouldn't even be able to take a shower. Sometimes they wouldn't even feed me properly. They would feed me bread and water. And that's only like one or two of the food groups. Like, they did not. It amazed me. And there was one time where I was obviously in trouble. I was on suicide watch during this time that I was being babysit. And normally I'm not allowed to talk to the staff. But I was giving one of the staff shit. Like, we were talking back and forth or whatever. And one of the other clients, she thought her shit did not stink. She was proud of the fact that people were afraid of her. She used her fear, like, I'm gonna jump at you, I'm gonna hurt you thing, and I'm better than everyone else type of thing, to control situations. And I was talking to the staff, which was her favorite staff, and because she got jealous, she told me to shut up. And so after the client told me to shut up, and we were directly across from each other, our rooms, the staff got up and walked away because she knew what was going to happen to me. And this is where I'm going to go into detail a little bit with this. So basically what happened was, I said, okay, fine, I'll be quiet. And as I'm getting ready to turn around, she grabs me by my hair, the client, and starts beating the crap out of me. And I'm screaming. And this is the reason why I have a little bit of brain damage, and why when I get concussions, it doesn't take very much to get a concussion. With me, like, several months ago, I got a concussion from having toilet paper thrown at my head. And I couldn't breathe. I had tunnel vision. I was so sick, and I was in the hospital. I was so weak. I couldn't even lift things. Like, I would try to open packages for dinner, and I just wouldn't want to eat because I'd feel so weak that I couldn't even open a freaking package to eat. But because of that, and the fact that I said okay, and I wasn't going to talk anymore to make her happy, she took me saying okay as not listening. So she grabbed me by my hair and screaming at me. I was like, I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything. And she's like, yeah, you did. I told you to shut the F up and you didn't. She's beating the crap out of me. And from the corner of my eye, I see two of the staff in my doorway with humongous smiles on their faces, watching this client just wail on me, and I'm screaming bloody murder and telling her to get off of me because I'm not the type of person to fight back. Even though I was being injured and hurt, I still couldn't find I just had so much anxiety of sticking up for myself and trying to fight back, and I knew if I fought back, I would get in trouble as well. So I just had to allow this girl to just beat the crap out of me. And the staff, after 2 minutes of watching this girl beat me, they're like, okay, Crystal, go to your room. That's actually her real name. But I'm not going to say last name or show no pictures, so it's fine. Crystal, just go to your room. Like, are you done? And when I heard their voice, I started screaming. Because when the staff said what they said, Crystal sat up and looked at the staff. And the staff was like, okay, Crystal, you're done. Go to your room. And I start screaming. And I was like, why did you do that? Like, I didn't do nothing wrong. And I was telling the staff, I was like, you just watched me get my butt beat for no freaking reason. And you allowed me to get beat and watching me. Why didn't you stop her? Like, they're supposed to get involved, break it up. And normally they're supposed to restrain. And they didn't. They just allowed me to get wailed on, which is why I have some brain damage. And because this isn't the only time I got wailed on and they watched. So basically, they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I watched them walk up as I was getting beat, and they were laughing at me while I was getting beat. And then when I questioned them on it, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't see anything. I just got here. Like, no, I watched you for a good 2 minutes smiling, getting a kick out of the fact that another girl in the house was beating the crap out of me. And, like, the only thing they did was check my teeth to see if I had, like, I lost a tooth or my gums were bleeding or something like that. And then they just threw me back in my room and called the house manager, and told him what happened. They didn't take me to the hospital. They didn't make sure that I didn't have any concussions. Like, I was feeling ill afterwards, and my head was pounding so hard. Like, it was insane. And they did not take me to the hospital. And that brings me up to the fact that I still had pica, which is basically a really nuts thing I developed from being on medication, high doses of medication, when I was little, even littler than that, where you eat things that aren't edible. It's really crazy. So basically, I ate things that weren't edible, which I feel absolutely crazy because I didn't have any control over my actions. It's like I would black out. I would see myself doing it, but I would have no control over what was happening to me. So, like when you ingest something like that, like, you should go to the hospital because it could cut you up, it could hurt you, and you could bleed internally. But they wouldn't take me to the hospital. They told me that they weren't going to take me to the hospital until I was coughing up blood, which is, like, basically too late. But yeah, I was sorry, I had to pause it because I got a message. But basically, I was treated very, very horribly there. And there were times where, like, there was one time where I had chapped lips, and my lips were, like, really bad chapped. Like, they were cracking and, like, bleeding all over my face. It was so bad. They wouldn't give me any Vaseline or any chapstick, which they had. They were just liking seeing me in pain and crying because I'm very sensitive. And sorry, something popped up on my computer. And I was very sensitive, and so I was crying and I was really upset, and I had called this lady that I love to death. Her name is Leslie, and she was from the Catholic Lutheran services or whatever for kids who are in foster care, but she's not CPS. But she knew I was being abused in the group home, and I called her crying and was telling her what was happening with my mouth, and she had drove several hours just to take me out and give me chapstick. But there were times where they tried to stop contact between me and Leslie because, like, me and her were really close. She was like an auntie to me, and she just wanted to protect me during those times, and they did not want her to make me happy. They wanted to continue to abuse me and lock me in a room. And even one Christmas, she tried to get me to be able to go to her house for Christmas, and they told her no. So I was familyless. I wasn't being treated like a normal child, and I was being abused. And like, normally when a kid has a birthday or something, or like it's their birthday, like they can get cake and ice cream and be able to get a gift card to buy anything that they want for a gift at the store. Well, there was times where there'd be favorites, and so the favorites would get that privilege, even though it's all privilege for all the kids who have birthdays. And I remember one time there was a staff named Gene. My God, he was mean. I can't believe he was even working there and was able to stay working there. But one of these girls that I actually still have contact with, he was actually his favorite. And we're having a birthday for her. Like, I was so happy for her. Like, I was not jealous. Until he said this to me. He looked me directly in my eye in front of everyone and targets me and goes, "Don't you dare think that when it's your birthday you're going to get these privileges." And I kind of was like, I wasn't thinking that. And he's like, "Oh, well, stop being rude." And I wasn't being rude, just the fact that I was saying, well, I'm just happy for her. Like, he took that as arguing and me being rude, so he gave me a check. But he was just like, "Oh, well, you're not going to get those same privileges, so don't think you are." And, like, it was so embarrassing and stressful to be treated like that. And I was on my best behavior. Like, I wasn't doing anything wrong. I was just really happy, like, for my friend. Like, she was having a birthday. And even she will tell you, and I still talk to her, she'll even tell you that she was a favorite. And that some of the staff there really, really liked her. Even though she had behaviors too. So, I mean, she wasn't like on her best behavior, and that's why the staff loved her. Like, I literally have no idea. I don't even know why they picked favorites, because she acted sometimes worse than I did. So there was a couple of times, because the school was connected to Galen, and they had their own private school. And they knew where I was in my math, because I was very, very behind, because no one was challenging me. Like, at first I was on times tables and I was doing really well. But then they started just giving me 2 + 2 and not actually giving me what I could do. So I was dumbed down on purpose. And this is why math stresses me out. There were times where I would just walk out of class. Even when I was trying to get my HiSET, which I'm still trying to do, and because of these past memories, it's really hard to finish school. But I was trying to do, like, I would try really hard. And because of the way I was treated, and so, okay, one time I was in class, in a math class, and this would happen every day. The staff would end up, when I said something, like, hey, like, 2 + 2 is too easy, they started giving me things that were way, way too hard. Like, things that I did not even know existed. Like, it looked like I was looking at alphabet soup. Like, I've never done this before. And because of my age, my grade, they're like, oh, you know how to do this, you're just lying. And so they'd be like, Tammy, do your work. So I'm like, okay. And then they would give me a check for not listening, because obviously I didn't know how to do it. And so I would just look at my page for like 10 minutes. So they would like yell at me every couple minutes to do my work, even though I didn't know what I was doing, because they wouldn't help me or teach me. And I would get so stressed out that I would walk out of class. And they would give me in-school suspension and cancel all the classes that I did. Like, I would do work in class, and like all the classes that I did before that or after that didn't count. Like, all the credits that I could have been earning, they weren't giving me proper credit. So when I was about to graduate high school, I was 9 credits behind. And I don't even know what I could do about that to be able to just be given my diploma, because I was gypped of my credits that I deserve because I was working hard. But because of the system at Galen, I think it's illegal, they gypped me out of credits. So basically they would send me home the same type of work that they were trying to get me to do earlier. And there was this day where we're at homework time. We have an hour a day to do homework after school, after quiet time in our bedrooms, after snack. So I'm sitting in a chair and getting ready to do my homework, and I'm like, hey, can you help me? Like, I don't know how to do this. They're like, no, you can do it. And like, you're just trying to act stupid because you want people to do it for you. I'm like, no, like, please help me. I've never seen this before. And they wouldn't listen. And so they're like, oh, well, there's a check for arguing. And obviously I'm getting mad, and checks are a bad thing. After 3 checks, you're grounded, blah, blah, blah. They will treat you even worse. So basically, I'm just looking at my paper for like 10 minutes. And they're like, Tammy, I thought I told you to do your work. You're just staring at the paper. And I'm like, dude, how am I supposed to do something I don't know how to do because you won't show me how to do it? And the staff got mad and gave me my 3rd check for not listening or not or arguing or whatever it was, or being rude or whatever the frick it was. So I was mad because I was grounded and no one was listening to me. And but I didn't like yell or get like physical or anything. I was just sitting in my chair. And they're like, okay, Tammy, since you're not going to listen to me, go to your room. And because I was stubborn, and I wasn't violent at all that day whatsoever. And basically what happened was I didn't listen. I was like, no. And I'm stubborn. I was like, no, I'm not going to my room. I don't deserve this. Like, all I was doing was asking for help. That's all I did. I was like, it's okay to ask for help. And so they sent all the girls to their room because they were being dramatic. And so all the girls went to their room as the staff were screaming at me, trying to drag me to the bedroom. And because I'm stubborn, I dug in my heels and I sat on the floor. Crisscross applesauce. I was like, no, I'm not going anywhere. But I wasn't being violent. In my head, I thought that I was silent protesting. And so I just sat there quietly and kind of ignored them. They got angry with me, and because I wasn't doing what they wanted me to do, after them doing a wrong just because I asked for help. So the PM2, the house manager, Anne, sees me from the corner of her eye. And she looks at me and she walks in. You can tell she's livid. And she's like, Tambi, I'm tired of your shit. She picks me up by my face, my arm, and then slams me onto the linoleum floor. And all I feel is my cheekbone hit across the floor and crack. I felt like my face broke. And I was in so much pain. Like my whole face just was burning up. It was so hot. It hurt so bad. And I started to bawl. And I was crying. I think I was like 14. And I was crying and I was really upset. And obviously I had every right to. And so I was crying and I was like, all I did was ask for help. Like I didn't do anything wrong. And they're like, well, we're just tired of your crap, Tambi. You never listen. And I was like, well, you grounded me for no reason. And all I was doing was asking for help. That is not okay. And in the morning, I tried everything because when I woke up, I had this humongous bruise stemming from here all the way up to my eyebrow. Like it was bad. It was dark. So I had damage and they didn't even take me to the hospital. But I woke up and I tried to wear makeup. Obviously, I wasn't allowed to do that because I lost privileges because I was grounded. So they told me to take the makeup off. So I was like, okay. So I took the makeup off. Then I tried to go out the door with sunglasses. They told me, no, I have to go take off sunglasses because I don't have the right to wear sunglasses while being grounded. Even though, like, sunglasses are used to protect your eyes from the sun. Like, they're taking away my right to protect my eyes. And so I'm getting upset and I'm rummaging through my room and I'm trying to find a hat. And I go to put the hat on and they're like, no, Tambi, you can't wear a hat either because you're grounded. So I'm like, okay, whatever. So I literally was determined to just do this all day. Like I was so embarrassed. And they kept yelling and screaming at me, telling me to put my hand down and that I deserved to show everyone my bruise on my face. Because I deserve it. And I deserved the bruise. And so they forced me to show my bruise to everyone at school. And actually that day, my CPS worker, for me being a kid, she was coming in to check on me. Because sometimes she did that. But it wasn't to like protect me or anything. Like I think it was just so that she could get paid or something. But she didn't even care. But I had the black eye right in front of her. And she was like, oh, what happened to your face? So I tell her. And so obviously the CPS worker asked the staff. And the staff lied. And said that I got violent. So they had to restrain me. I was not violent. It's sitting on the floor cross-legged. Not saying a word. Or moving. Is that violent? No. They knew I wasn't violent. They just were afraid that they were going to get in trouble. The CPS worker listened to them and believed them instead of me. And left me there. And when the CPS worker left, the staff started yelling and screaming at me, saying, how dare you tell, blah, 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 and all this stuff. At one point, they even had me hide contraband for them when the health department and these other people, I don't know who it was other than the health department, they were coming over to do a house inspection on safety and if they were following the rules and doing safe stuff. Well, they put on everyone's doors that they were targeting because they take off people's doors and blah, 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 take their stuff. Well, apparently they're legally not able to do that because legally we're allowed to have privacy. And they were taking that away. They were taking our doors off. They were taking our stuff away from us so that we would freak out. But when the health department and them came over to the house, they forced me. I told them I didn't want to. I didn't want to be a part of that. I didn't want to be a part of doing something illegal. And I told them, hey, I don't want to do that. They forced me. They went in my room and because I tried to block them from going where they were trying to hide. And they restrained me. Even though I wasn't being violent, I was just trying to stand in front of them. And they hid stuff under my bed so no one would see it, and put on everyone's doors. And then when they left, they took all the stuff back, including all the stuff that they took away from everyone and gave it back to. They took all their stuff back and put on their doors, and took the stuff that they weren't supposed to have out of under my bed. And I tried to tell someone that, a head person, and they didn't believe me. They didn't care. And even if someone's not being violent, they use even the smallest thing to restrain, so they have a reason to explain why they're hurting the kids there. Oh, well, that person was violent, so I had to restrain them. Keep in mind, their restraining is very physical and very rough. Like, they manhandle the kids there. And they use it as an excuse to shake them and manhandle them and throw them on the ground like they're in WWE. I'm not even lying. That's the truth. Like, they use that to be able to hurt the kids there. There was also a rumor that there was a male staff who was in a relationship with one of the kids there. She was like 15, and he was a grown adult. I'm pretty sure that happened with multiple people. There's more to this story, more to this stuff. Like when my grandpa died, the one that abused me, when I started crying, they were mocking me and stuff like that. Like, there's more to this, but like, this video is already an hour long. And obviously I went back to this home in Galen like 3 or 4 million different times. I think it was at least 7 times I went back to this place. But yeah, the next place I went to was another group home. Keep in mind, Galen is in between Anaconda and Deer Lodge, but the new Galen, which I actually was able to be a part of as well, is in Anaconda. So, when I was about maybe 14 or 15, they put me in another group home, also owned by Ware, and that group home was in Missoula, and the group home's name is Ernest. And that is what we're going to talk about in the next video. I hope to see you there. Bye.